Hello everybody and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here and I'm joined by Don as usual. And we have our returning guests, John V and Leo. They're back again and they have some stories for us this time. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what's been going on. I think it's been about a month or so since we last talked to you guys.
Yeah, it feels like I've died 1,000 deaths, but that sounds about right. I would say it's been about a month.
Yeah, how have things been going? I understand you've been going through some things.
Oh yeah, we have some deeply dark tales of slumming it. Leo, I can take the lead if you want.
Please. I
am in the opposite place of where I was our last recording. I was in sort of a domestic quarantine paradise and at a loss with how to have bad feelings and sort of distracted by dinners, just loveliness and domestic bliss and such, and now I am alone in the Bronx, sort of dizzy, losing my mind. I've sustained a few concussions. I've been temporarily homeless. So basically all that stuff in last episode, like, oh yeah, I haven't really gone to the protests. I've been doing my own thing. That's like Icarus basking in the glow of the sun now. After the fact, it's very painful for me. Side note, I went to this horrible community college in Manhattan before I went to Columbia and still ended up here. And they had a great sculpture in the garden that said, so the school slogan was "Start here, go anywhere." And they had a sculpture of Icarus in the garden. And I thought, what a terribly morbid thing. And yet here I am, singed by the sun. So, right, yeah, a few weeks after our last recording, I kind of totaled my life by accident. Various factors owed to this. One was around a few weeks after the first episode, I left the Bronx. I let my parents cat sit here, and when I say parents, Leo's more familiar with them, but you shouldn't really think parents. They're more like my troubled, like, Latino teen children, you know, that I've had to look after my entire life. They used to be very capable. My mother fled the Soviet Union in the late 70s with the famous Bolshevik writer and guy who went to prison a lot, Edward Limonov, and then left him because he wanted her to buy him guns, I believe. And then she taught at Juilliard for a while. My father was an art director at a bunch of labels, but then they had me and they moved to Miami. And they kind of just gave up. I think they misunderstood the fundamental basis of having a child. But they kind of spiraled out on drugs. And I sort of had to look after them from, like, age 5 starting onwards. I'd have to, like, wake my drunk father up for work, you know. That was my kind of shift. And this has continued into me keeping them afloat in my adult life and sort of letting them pester me until earlier this year when I finally cut them off. But then during Corona, I was worried about them and I wanted them to have somewhere to stay. So I let them stay here. This will come back to...
Let me interject. What John won't tell you is that there's a 75% chance he's the bastard son of Edward Limonov. So people on the internet would accuse everybody of being a Nazgul. John is the leader of this movement. And,
I mean, there's a good chance. There's a pretty good chance, yeah. He remained in her life, and I've heard some arguments. Yeah, I could be Limonov's son. I certainly don't look half Cuban. It's very possible.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I could be the inheritor of the Bolshevik Party, and I could be facing a lot of jail time as a result. I'm very excited. But yeah, so I let my crazy parents stay here again, and I had also made the mistake of letting my doctor prescribe me a benzo, which I've had problems with in the past. But when your doctor says, like, why don't we put you on this thing you really liked before? You know, you're not going to say, like, oh, you know, I won't have the restraint with that. You know, you're going to say, yeah, why not? Maybe this time I'll just be chill. I'll go to sleep easier. So, and then I made the triple mistake of leaving most of those pills here with my parents. So this all leads up to a really unfortunate day. the previous night I had really annoyed the one I love by getting upset at my hairline. I feel like I had a serious case of quarantine brain, which I will define early on as like I feel like we're all like passively enduring constant trauma through this, but since it's so deeply intangible and since all the sources are so murky and dissonant, it doesn't really feel like trauma, or it doesn't really feel placeable. So we sort of externalize bad feelings to make the trauma more sensible, against its backdrop, if that makes any sense. But anyway, we had our dumb quarantine fight, and then she wanted me out of the house the next day just for some space. But this happened to coincide with my father taking like 30 benzos and relapsing onto alcohol and sending me death threats all day. And yeah. I was fighting with my parents at the time, so I couldn't return to the Bronx. My sole confidant at the time was You Can't Win alumnus Cameron, who has repeatedly asked me to denounce his appearance on the podcast, although I liked that episode. I felt it was charming. You got a nice portrait of Cameron's life where he's constantly rushed, and it's somehow always 4 a.m., and he's always like one confession behind. I thought it was charming. But anyway, he was trying to help me through this. I made a misguided attempt to stay in one of the spare bedrooms, and much like every attempt to stand up for myself in a masculine way, it totally blew up my face. So I was back on the street talking to Cameron. He was being very charmingly obliging, sort of like indulging my really stupid ideas. Like, maybe I'll take mushrooms and just walk around all night and then return to her really wise. And he would say, like, yes, I'd put that on the back burner, John. I'd try to find a bed first.
Yeah.
Right. So my phone dies while I'm walking to see a friend, and I head upstairs with him. And he has a very fragile fiance, and we had a very quaint conversation about the weed we were about to smoke, and then we all got high, and then my friend started receiving death threats from my father, who had somehow gotten my contact list and sent basically all my closest friends like drunken, misspelled death threats unprompted. The first time this ever happened, I was ejected from my friend's home for being such a bummer. He said, like, I'm sorry you have to leave. My fiance is very upset. He kind of took me for a lap around the block. But then I was just sort of like sitting on the sidewalk, and there were all these PSYOPs fireworks going off around me. And I was charging my phone in one of the ex-phone booth, now USB ports that they have around Brooklyn. And people like mistook me for a homeless guy, and they were bringing me like sandwiches and Gatorade, and I couldn't refuse it because they'd already gotten it for me. My mask had fallen off at some point, so I guess this helped the image. But eventually, I found a really bougie hostel that, given quarantine and COVID, I guess, is empty except of the locals of the very large housing project who deal drugs and then spend the money on like hostel rooms there. So it's a very funny like contrast of like dumbass airbrushed Andy Warhol stuff and like local drug dealers having a grill that never ends. So I'm drying out there for a bit and just trying to figure out what to do next. And I go to the cops about the situation with my parents, and I talk to like a total asshole cop who doesn't let me in the station, and kind of like doubts that my parents are so cruel. Many people doubt this. I feel like this is why I couldn't find a couch that night, because no one could really understand what the fight with my parents meant. Like, a fight with most people's parents probably means like a disagreement, but like one of my first memories is like watching my drunk father like stab a guy through the foot, like some Venezuelan drug dealer. So I am pretty scared of the guy, especially on substances. But he sort of says like, if you hit them, if they're over 65, it's elderly abuse, that'll be really against your case, even if it's in self-defense. He basically tells me to like watch my ass. So I come back here to the Bronx, and my parents are raging drunk, and we get into a fight, and my mother hits me in the head with a hammer, and I sustain a pretty decent concussion. It's pretty brutal. But what was more brutal is that the next day, before I had cemented a place actually at the Third Pimp's, Evan's old room that he had moved out of. I love the idea of Evan as this nebulous third character, like Godot, of this podcast that never fucking happens because our lives are too fucked up perpetually. What was really heartbreaking is that, like, you know, they are old and they are addicts. So, like, the next day they kind of forgot giving me a concussion, and they were like, "Oh, where are you going? Why aren't you staying?" You know, it's a double-edged sword, this whole situation.
That's a very ironic response as a frequent recipient of concussions, because you can't remember anything.
It's true.
The last concussion I had, I didn't go to the doctor afterwards because I was too messed up. And then, like, the next day I got up like bright and early, and the first person I talked to, I was like, "Wow, I got so concussed, I forgot I went to the doctor," because I just imagined this whole scenario where I was in the hospital. It never happened.
That explains a few things. I remember advising you to go there, but I didn't want to be pushy about it. And yeah.
I honestly thought I'd been there.
Yeah, no, I took care of that, man.
Yeah, they hooked me up. They put concussion pills right in my ear.
Right. Yeah. So then I was staying at Evan's old room down in Ridgewood with my concussion, and one of the nights I was leaving the subway stop, and this seemingly homeless guy who immediately introduced himself as Mike Covert asked me for a cigarette. So I bummed him one, and he was talking to this nerdy couple. And
That's Covert. Covert.
Yeah.
Covert Affairs.
Yeah.
My favorite television show.
Yeah, definitely. And keep that in mind, because that comes in. Some covert affairs. So he's talking to this nerdy couple who seem to be having the same problem that I'm having, which is that, or rather, who seem to have had the same problem, which is that the woman's father had threatened the boyfriend with death threats, and they had gotten power of attorney. So I thought, oh, these are cool people to talk to about my issues, you know, concussion logic. So I sat there with this homeless guy and this weirdly nicely done up couple, smoking a cigarette, and then he said we should go down to the unsurveilled, like, secret area of the subway platform and smoke a joint. And I thought, oh, okay, cool, I'll do that with Mike Covert. Concussion logic again. So we all go down, and I notice that only Mike Covert and I are smoking the joint, and that the couple immediately leave us. And then Mike Covert turns to me and he says, they don't smoke no weed. They don't know that I smoke crack. They don't know I suck dick, which I think is a haiku. It's pretty beautiful, yeah. I think, after the fact. But that's why he's Mike Covert. And
he keeps it on the low.
He keeps it on the low, yeah. Yeah. And then fucking he starts with the come-ons and you have pretty lips and, grabbing of my jeans, and I'm very uncomfortable, but also, he's a big guy and I have a concussion, and he pulls out a crack pipe, and then he pulls out his slimy little chode, and then he hits the crack pipe and he begs me to touch his chode. And I'm thinking again of my father and all the violent outbursts he had, like breaking windows with crack strength. So I just, I grab his slimy chode, and then I run up the fucking stairs. And so this is how I became gay through a concussion, basically. That's what Evan summed it up as. But, that's why they call him Mike Covert. And I was watching him at that subway stop, and I noticed that there were other, handsome, twinkish, semi-Latino guys that were getting him sandwiches at the local deli. And then I noticed that he had a home very close to his spot. So fucking Leo, if you ever make it to New York, you and I are going to Mike Covert's spot. We're blowing it up, man. We're gonna
We're going full burn notice.
We're going full fucking burn notice, dude.
We got a burn notice on you, Mike Covert. You're blacklisted. And then the C4 goes off.
Yeah, so you would think that I gave up here, but to quote the eponymous novel, or rather, I guess, memoir of this podcast, rather than take fault with the fire, I gave thanks with the metal I had to temper it with. Quoting Jack Black, author of You Can't Win and star of School of Rock. So I kept this very.
You can't stop School of Rock.
That's my favorite song from School of Rock. You Can't Stop the School of Rock. It's the best one of all.
Because it's funny and true. Yeah.
Miranda Cosgrove's breakout performance in School of Rock will go down in the history books as one of the best performances by a child actor in a musical comedy. And you can take that to the bank.
Right. So continuing down my horrible black hole, I start drafting a restraining order with the footage that I have and I guess, unending history of toxicity. And I stay a week at Evans, and then I help him pack up his room, which he said he had packed up, but when I got there was like a literal fireplace just full of like ancient art books that he had just abandoned that I had to box up for him, and a bunk bed that was the height of Michael Jordan, which you can only reach by like a series of like wooden platforms and like a really tough pull-up. So Evan's a cool guy, basically.
I don't think Evan stays so ripped. He's doing pull-ups just to get into bed.
Just to get into bed, brother. That's a true pimp.
Remember, like, the sweet spot in your life where you're, like, say, 22 to 25 and big art books, like, this is my Gustav Klimt book that weighs 50 pounds. Like, you just needed to get as many art books as you could to show girls who came over. You're like, oh, I got the Klimt. I got it all, baby. Just leaf through it and enjoy this marijuana cigarette. Maybe we do something else. I don't know.
You ever heard of Basquiat, baby?
Oh my gosh. He was an intersectional motherfucker. That's what I can tell you.
He was one intersectional motherfucker, man.
Alright, back to your story.
Oh right, yeah, back to my decline and fall. Right, so I help Evan box up his stuff, and I say a hearty fuck off to Mike Covert and take my last trip up to the Bronx, and there's a few more brutal days of endless fighting and trying to get them out, and finally they abide. They didn't tell me they had the power put in their name, and they had it shut off for 2 days, so I was just kind of like in a fucking like sweaty fugue, unsure what to do. They came back, I guess, the second week of July, and we had one last horrible fight, and they threw my phone somewhere, and my father curb-stomped my concussion into the fine parquet floor, so that was re-exacerbated, and I woke up and couldn't find my phone, and no one was calling me anyway. And then I tried to plug in my laptop, and that was dead, and the charger seemed to have gone. So I just decided, fuck it, why don't I just go off the grid and just sleep for the next 3 days? Which I do, and then I finally get enough metal to go to the Apple store and return part of the charger, which is a nice little dystopian portrait in this too. They have like guards from Rikers set up at the Apple store, and they have like these unlabeled fever guns that are shaped like guns from the future, and they point them at your head, and it supposedly takes your temperature, but it could be doing anything. They could be like testing heart attack guns, and we won't know until like 2 weeks from now when I and like 300 other people drop dead suddenly, and we're all marked as COVID deaths, you know.
Speaking of the heart attack gun, I have a little insight about the latest victim. Later on, we can come back to that.
Yeah, let's save that nest egg. Yeah, so I'm basically just limping around with a concussion. I managed to file my divorce and get the restraining order all in order. And I guess I really underestimated how much people would worry. I thought they'd treat it like a boy who cried wolf situation, because I always talk about, and I let it disappear for a while. But everybody got obscenely worried, and apparently in one of my concussion sleeps, I slept through the cops banging on my door, which I've never gotten the cops to come here like when the aforementioned incidents were happening. So I have no idea how they got cops to show up at some guy's door during Corona. But I guess I slept through that, and I woke up and everybody was extremely mad at me and very upset. So I just became further isolated. And then I don't know what's been happening, but I'm in like this weird, like, complete quarantine isolation fever mess. Like, I've been tested, especially after all my homeless incidents, and I'm negative, but I'm still like really dizzy, and I have like anorexia nervosa, the spiciest illness of all. And
I'm
yeah. So I've just kind of been painfully isolated, rebuilding my shitty home, and sweating and sleeping, and just sort of dizzy and a mess. And that is how I ended up here. Thank you guys for having me on.
Man,
If I could offer one insight from all of this pain, it would be that I think quarantine brain is very real. I think we are all experiencing like a collective trauma. And Don, I actually quoted you by accident to my shrink. I didn't realize what it was from, and I looked, and it's from like a Letterboxd review that you wrote about a superhero movie about 2 years ago. But it's something to the tune of, I feel like sometimes we get so wrapped up in justifying the argument of our points, we forget a much higher unity that lies above us, and in the process sort of fall back on warped, outdated perceptions of one another. And I feel like we're more at risk of this than ever, given the ongoing and seemingly endless madness. So I would say everyone should be extremely gentle with one another. I feel like people are taking their own lives for granted and the fragility of them, given the mass death and collective trauma occurring around them. But everything's still just as fragile in light of that, perhaps more so. So be gentle with each other, make an effort, sing Supreme's ballads to each other in the evening, whisper sweet nothings. Just be very gentle.
Do something constructive with your weekend. And I think John's parents could take some advice that I believe Don also wrote in one of his earlier songs, which is no sex, no drugs, no drinking. At least I can fucking think.
They could stand to do that, because again, they are like my troubled Latino children. Like, look at me as like a rundown Latin mother, you know, like they're very troubled, but you know, I still care for mijillos, you know, so much, and you know, they're like good friends still, you know, like Evan met them at a show of mine, you know, they're very supportive of my music, but yeah, given that they caused the downward spiral of my life, I suppose we have to cut off ties for a while until the no sex, no drugs, no drinking, etc.
Yeah.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
John, can I ask you a question about your mindset at the time?
Oh yes, of course. If I can recollect it at all, please, sweet lady.
Would you say that after your first concussion, you felt something like the original general during the Indian Mutiny, who was an obese man named Hewitt, and he sent his divisions to the local prison instead of the Indian parade grounds, and was deaf in both ears, basically, so he couldn't hear the rifle fire on the street, and so he just sat around and let the sepoys take over.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I felt. I would say that I felt that to a T. I did feel like 300 pounds heavier, and I did feel like I was just sort of dragging my corpse around. I sort of still feel that way, but rock bottom is where things happen, you know? This is where possibility occurs. Lightning may strike yet. And I'm glad to have confessed it on a intersectional faith podcast, so you guys can have independent prayers for me. That'll do a lot for me. Yeah. I'm looking for outreach here, you know, expanse, you know.
As Klaus Nomi said, lightning
is striking again.
Yeah.
John, have you had like medical attention to your?
Oh yeah, I had
okay.
medical attention to the first concussion, and then it's just been hit a bunch more. So
you just kind of did what the doctor did the first time. You're like, I know how this goes.
I'll just go to sleep a lot and hope it's better. Yeah, I hope I'm not bleeding in my skull. I hope I'm not incoherent and insane. I'm sane in my head right now.
You're fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm cohesive. That's all I can hope for in this state.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say. That's really horrible, man.
Yeah. Let's not forget that higher unity, as Don wrote on his famous Wonder Woman song. Let's not forget the unity above us, people. I have experienced the luxury, domestic bliss of quarantine and the crushing isolation and sometimes homelessness side of quarantine. And I would say the first one is much better. Everybody cling to your happiness like it's going away.
Yeah. Well, in the Jason Lee in the movie Vanilla Sky, he said you got to have the sour with the sweet. So I think that was a good insight.
Were you guys aware that they make watermelon flavored Sour Patch Kids now?
Didn't they always? I feel like there was a lighter hued red Sour Patch Kid.
That was dragon fruit.
Oh yeah, that was that was actually jackfruit. Right, I forgot.
I saw something on Twitter there's a big Sour Patch Kids store opening up in New York. Like all these places are closing down, and they open. like very recently they opened a huge, like a mega store up for. It's very weird.
Leo, when you finally make it up here, we should do like a riot tour. We should bust that down, and then we should go to the M&M store where they have like the Zionist Israel fucking glass M&Ms. Should hurl that into the streets. Make a big tour of it.
I wonder what the insurance policy is on that store, though. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that's the whole deal. Like, you set up this big target, and then it's like, oh, man, I hope nothing happens to my nice store full of candy.
The insurance policy is great. I used to build out those stores and manage them. And I can tell you, insurance, it costs a lot. Thankfully, I wasn't paying for it. But I'm really excited for the Star of David shaped Sour Patch Kid, and also for the Puerto Rican Day flag red, white, and blue Sour Patch Kid from the Manhattan Sour Patch store. Yeah, I think those are going to be big sellers.
Yeah. Latinx candy, that's the next thing, man.
G-Conic candy.
That's with an X at the beginning, folks, so he's being very woke.
I woke so many times last night. I feel like I can't even watch TV because there's not enough representation of just various people that I couldn't even name. Like, for one thing,
and you couldn't name them because of TV. You know, that's the only people we have to blame.
You have so many people in the former Lucknow residency, who they don't get a platform like your David Corden's. And why? Why not? They're funnier than he is. Wait, is it David or is it James Corden? The fat fellow who always wears a polo shirt.
James.
Yeah.
I hate that guy. That guy.
Every time I see that guy, I want to cut him down with a cavalry saber.
I've only seen him like couple minutes maybe total, just like here and there. I think I saw him do like a Hot Ones interview or something like that, you know, that YouTube show. But he just seems like pure LA slime, you know what I mean? Like just Hollywood, no personality, no soul, you know.
Yeah, he's vacuous, and apparently he's a dickhead to the backstage people on the show.
Well, he's just imitating Ellen or whatever. I guess that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Ellen molested me, baby.
Yeah, can we cut the stuff about Ellen because I'm trying to get, you know.
Oh yeah,
let's try to get staff writer position.
Mark it,
My bad.
cut it. Mark it and cut it.
Yeah, sure.
Ellen's best guess ever was that little boy who said literally and actually and basically. He's like, basically I live in 3 towns. That kid's great. That's all I have to say about it.
I like that one kid that was like a country singer or something. He was like singing in Walmart and he went on there. I thought that was cool.
Oh, I love when you find like a video of a 13-year-old country western, like a fiddle player or something, and he's just the nerdiest kid in the world with his big like half crooked glasses because he sat on them wearing his little suit, and he's got the nerdy little boy grin just from ear to ear, and he's like, hi, my name is David William, I'm gonna play Tristan on the raintops, and he goes ding, 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 ding. I just love the face of the young musician on television.
Yeah. Remember when they had that Stephen Paddock thing on there? You guys remember this? After the
when they
Las Vegas
televised
shooting?
the Stephen Paddock shooting because it was a planned CIA operation on
Yeah,
American
he was a
soil.
gun
What are you
runner,
talking
right?
about?
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Yeah, maybe. I don't know the whole story. We actually should do an episode about that at some point. Mike is really into all that.
I have some good intel to offer on that. I heard he was removed from his first hotel room for practicing on the bathroom. He was just firing rounds into the toilet, standing at the wall, and said, "Sir, you can't do this here. You'll have to find another hotel to conduct the world's largest mass shooting. I'm sorry."
I understood. That's fair. Fair is fair. But yeah, like after the shooting, they had some sort of interview on Ellen, which was like the official police explanation of it, and it was like a completely humorless, like it wasn't some sort of you know Ellen style thing. It was almost like this like press conferencey style thing where they were just like, this is how it happened, this is, you know.
Jesus Christ.
Very weird.
Yeah.
And that was the only place that like an interview like that took place. Like they chose Ellen, I guess because it's like a big show or something, but that's very bizarre.
And in the crowd, each like guest got like under their chair like a full report on the situation or whatever, you know, like a 500 page
and a shell from the scene, you know.
It was like the infamous Blue Book, but this one had a magenta cover.
Yeah, and they're people just
Did
cheering like wild.
You guys ever hear the conspiracy theory that Lyndon Johnson ducked before the shooting at Dealey Plaza because he was part of the conspiracy to kill JFK?
I have heard that he was made aware of it. I think that's actually pretty well confirmed. But
the theory is that some Texas oil men wanted to get rid of him, and the CIA, obviously Dulles and the CIA did because he was curtailing their power, and they had a ton of expendable Cubans to use, and they had this sheep dip double agent guy in Oswald to be the fall guy. But back
That's
to the
not
show.
what I heard in the official Ellen press conference about the JFK assassination. I'm going to have to say, this is all news to me.
The thing is that when the Sepoy mutiny happened, they entrenched themselves to against British counterattack, and Lyndon Johnson entrenched himself in the Vietnam War. That's my opinion.
That's fact.
I'm just gonna run to the washrooms quickly. Sorry. If you guys want to take a
Me
break,
too. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Everybody's taking a break. How you doing, Tom? You still in quarantine heaven?
Oh
Talking
yeah,
to you
I'm
from
loving
hell. Yeah, yeah.
it. I feel bad
Hold on
for you.
to
I'm like,
that.
this is why we need 1,000-year quarantine. You know, everyone just never go outside. Nothing bad can ever happen.
Yeah, you and I were both shamelessly posting, egging on a second wave. Now here I am, washed up in the middle of it.
Yeah, are you gonna be all right? Like, you doing okay with everything?
I'm holding up okay. I am kind of physically debilitated, but still like drywalling my apartment and making it nice, even though no one comes here except the cops, apparently.
You gotta make it nice for them, you know.
Gotta make it nice for the NYPD, you know, our boys in blue.
They
Yeah.
appreciate a good drywall job.
They do. I can't have the place looking nasty for the boys, you know. But
Well, you'll
yeah.
heal up, you know, all that kind of stuff. I imagine we'll get better
Yeah.
every day, you know.
Yeah, and I think folks will turn around. I imagine they're all listening to this in like a Forrest Gump cinematic situation, all seeing the breadth of my tragedy and clutching their hearts fondly.
Yeah.
But no, don't be ashamed of your quarantine heaven. Just keep it rolling. That's
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
I'm not
saying.
ashamed at all. I'm trying to like spread the good news and get everyone else on board. Everyone's talking about, like, I know you've had a genuinely traumatic experience over the past month or so. So like, you know, nothing against that, but people are talking about, oh, I haven't been able to go out to eat for a few months, and now it's
Yeah.
torturing me. Like, just
Yeah.
enjoy this. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
the world
yeah.
is shut down.
Yeah, fuck your goddamn, you know, outdoor dinner. I have fucking had my life stripped because of the quarantine, you bastards.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was going to mention this earlier, but there's a hadith that says that God tries the ones he loves most. Like the ones who God loves most are the ones that he tries the most, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, this is what I came here for. I was looking for agents of God to offer me wisdom.
And there's also a very popular line in the Quran, and it's one of the only lines that just repeats, like, immediately after, like there's a refrain, and it says that after hardship comes ease. After hardship comes ease. So
Yeah.
I think you got the hardship covered.
Yeah, definitely. And I have gone from hardship to ease. That was episode 1 to 2. Now I'm hoping Pimp Chronicles guest episode 3 to 4 is my next come up. You know?
Yeah.
Got the blessings of Muslim Tom and His Holiness Don, you know. That's a lot to have behind you.
Yeah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. And Felix said he would shout us out once we got our thing running. So
Yeah.
Nice.
We definitely should have it soon because I need to fill my hours with something. And we were working on it. We have been scripting a few things. We're trying to up the production values and up the efforts and try to make something out of it, I guess.
John's got all the engineer gear, and we want a ton of drops. I want more drops than
Just
Charlemagne the
constant air
God
horns.
show. I want to be like, there's many a slip from lip to cup, and I want to play the Roy Jones rap song where he says, "Remember when I beat Dame Tony by moving just like a gamecock? Y'all must have forgot." Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. It's gonna be chaos.
I am back.
Oh,
Welcome
welcome
back.
back.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to jump back in, or?
Oh, we're deep in the waters, baby. We are.
Yeah, I don't
slumming
even
it.
know what
Okay,
we were
okay.
talking about when we left off. So I don't know. Maybe we'll just keep that in.
We're talking about Ellen and
Oh, right.
and her investigative journalism. and whatnot.
Yeah. I guess she's in trouble now for being mean.
Yeah. Another powerful woman
I
taken
thought-
down.
Yeah, she seems to be like a sociopath
Yeah.
type.
Legitimately, yes.
I used to love her comedy as like a kid, like as like stand up stuff. I just like thought it was the best ever, and eventually I figured out it's just her doing what's that guy's name? Bob. Oh, I don't know. Not Wood. Something Wood. I can't remember his name.
I think I know who you're talking about.
It's like there's like he had his own TV show. I can't remember.
Bob Newhart.
Oh man.
Bob Newhart.
Yeah, Bob Newhart. So anyways, if you listen to her comedy, it's just the exact same as she's just ripping off Bob Newhart. 100%.
Jesus.
And which I don't. But I mean, like the way she does it and stuff, like her characteristics and whatever. But like, anyways, but I still love it. Like at some level, like I'll always love that comedy, no matter how many times she swore at us or whatever. So yeah, that's my. Yeah. So why don't you want to, Leo? Do you want your Tales of Woe, or are you okay? Just
I don't know if you can follow that.
I think I'll save my tale of woe. There's a little too much police involvement at the moment.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
I have the
Okay.
blessing of my parents
Sure.
not knowing how to use computers, so I doubt this will ever reach them.
Yeah. So, but John too, like I always feel like, Tom asked about the medical stuff. I always feel weird asking that as Canadian, because it's like, we get like in New York, are there like clinics you can go to just follow up on some of the stuff, or is it
Oh
just,
yeah,
like,
no, there
full-
are very loaded,
Nightmare.
like 9-hour wait free clinics, but they do.
Yeah,
exist.
Dr. Covert.
Yeah, they're mostly for women and
Yeah, yeah.
children, but they allow scoundrels like me. I'll be okay. I have the blessings of You Can't Win behind me.
Yeah, very powerful prayers coming your way.
Powerful prayers. During my brief homeless stint, I encountered this strange Haitian man named Elaine, and I asked him for a light, and I immediately noticed he was wearing like a World Catholic Organization Fund hat that was very bright green and white, and he immediately introduced himself by, and I want to steal this, he like apologized for having a very high IQ. So like his wisdoms might pass over my head, which he had a lot. He said he worked at the largest bank in New York, which I guess is J.P. Morgan, but he wouldn't name it. And he said that despite working with the 99% Jewish colleagues, he never felt outcast for being a black Catholic man. Which I found heartening. He also told me a phrase that I really liked. I said something that he found incredulous, and he said, "You're definitely not 6 o'clock, but you're not quite 7:30." So I guess that means 6 o'clock is totally sane and normal, and then 7:30 is completely insane, which I think is pretty decent labeling, actually.
That's when the zombies come out in Haiti, I guess, or something.
yeah, that's when those Haitian zombies come out for their Creole ceremony.
Oh, speaking of zombies and other African indigenous religions, the heart attack gun, I'm sad to say, has recently been used on a hero of mine. You might know him as Kamala, the Ugandan giant.
Oh, rest in peace. Yeah.
To die exactly one day before Kamala Harris's candidacy was announced.
Yeah. That's
You think they were
insane.
going to that they were actually going to pick him, and then
he was the first Kamala. Yeah.
and then they realized he's like an
they needed a
anti-imperialist.
Kamala. They reached out to him, but then her people, who are
Yeah.
down low, they're very shady people. They said, "Oh, we can't have a vice president who only communicates in moans," not understanding that that's simply a character. And they said, "We can't have a vice president who carries a fetish stick for his rituals." And they said, "No, that's part of his character." Didn't matter. They hit him with the heart attack gun, and the world lost a wonderful, wonderful man by the name of James Arthur Harris. Go to hell, Kamala. The other Kamala, that is. His
lesser
last name
Kamala.
is literally Harris. Yeah. It's a shame. It's just a shame.
It's a
I wish
shame.
they would use that heart attack on people like Jeff Bezos or General Mattis or even the Queen of England. I think it's her time to go.
Yeah, why is she still around? How much adrenochrome is she on?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot. They had a whole children's hospital for molesting kids, so they probably stockpiled it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole situation with that in the UK is, it's incredible. Like, if you start looking into that, it'll, you'll spend the rest of your life digging around, because it's like every little school and every charity and all. It's
yeah, Jimmy Savile's just the tip. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
So the next 2 hours we might do of the show on the Kamala Harris pick and the ins and outs of that, and we'll kind of game out of the next, all the elections.
I'm kind of optimistic about Harris. I mean, I still think Trump is going to win. I don't think any of this stuff matters until like November, and then Trump will just be like, "Hey, everybody, another $1,200," and then
he's gonna buy the votes, and it's gonna work. Yeah.
There's a rumor that it's going to be 1,700 this time.
There you
Honestly, if he sends me 1,700 and promises to stop destroying the post office, I'd vote for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to vote, but yeah, I would feel happy about that.
You would support him.
Yeah. But if it is Biden and Harris, I kind of like having this like super cop lady in charge, because then 1,000-year quarantine, I think she would be up for it.
Yeah, quarantine cops, total fucking RoboCop zone. I'm really into it. Yeah.
Oh, did you guys see the King of Qatar's new robot bodyguard who has a integrated pistol? He's like 9 feet tall, and he walks with a swagger and a cape.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
With an uncanny swagger, one might say. Yeah. I was really impressed. Fear shook my body. Yeah.
Who do you want to shoot you for breaking quarantine? A humble man, some thug, or a brilliantly programmed robotic bodyguard the size of a Holstein cow?
I hope they like have some really witty like one-liners programmed in after he murks somebody, just like "have a nice day" or whatever,
Salam alaikum.
I love those Gulf monarchies, because you could have said anything and exaggerated to the point of just absurdity. I mean, that's already absurd, but like, as much as you can imagine, and it would be completely believable. Like you can't like outdo the absurdity of what they do.
It's fantastic. One of those princes made a replica of a Jeep that actually drives the size of like 3 office parks stacked on one another. They just have fun out there with their limitless money and their slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have fun.
What was the name of that like city that they're gonna build of the future, whatever, in Saudi Arabia? Neos or something?
Neom, I think.
Neom?
Like Neo with like a biome for Neos or something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't know. That is a good. I don't know. Maybe they had quarantine brain before us, because they're like in like just their own little bubbles in Saudi Arabia and stuff. So they've just been spinning out, and someone gave them $10 billion, and they're like, you know what? We should build Neom in the desert. We were like, okay, I guess so.
Some friend of the prince, or some prince, must have gone to a European architecture school, because the rhetoric is exactly that. It's like, Neom is a cognitive city. It's a bold and audacious dream.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Those guys have some kind of future sight. They're so deeply spiritual and religious. They're really tuned into the logic of the universe. I imagine they can understand how things are playing out. They're like 50 years ahead of everybody.
Well, you can't mess with success.
No, you can't, especially not with a 9-foot bodyguard standing by.
The truth about Neom is that if you're gonna get a citizenship pass, you're gonna be engaging with pioneering community of dreamers and doers. The fact is, NEOM is an accelerator of human progress, being built from the ground up as a living laboratory, a place where entrepreneurship will chart the course for a new future.
It's a lifestyle experience, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And if you're not engaging with that, what are you engaging with? Huh?
Man, I can't wait till Americans start getting shipped out there to live in shipping containers and stuff to like do graphic design and stuff for like NEOM startups and stuff. Like living next to some Indian family.
Send me out there, baby. Ship me to NEOM. I will volunteer.
You can do the music at some strip mall.
You have to design the arm graphics of the long sleeve tee of some Saudi prince's streetwear line.
Yeah. Sign me up, man. I will put graffiti all over his shirt.
Graffiti. It's such an interesting art form. I think we should put it everywhere.
Yeah. I'd like a graffito at my own personal home. I'd like graffiti murals of Andy Warhol surrounding me and looking down at me in my room at all hours of the day.
One of the worst albums I ever listened to was oh god, what was it called? Sorry, talk about something else for a second while I look this up.
Are you thinking of Songs for Drella?
No, Songs for Drella is a goddamn terrible album.
It's really horrible. Yeah, it's a musical made in homage to Andy Warhol by John Cale and Lou Reed, but it's like just really embarrassing, and like the songs are all like comical caricatures of like musical type sing-songy garbage, like when you're growing up in a small town, like.
Oh, okay. Here's what it is. It's called Cronenberg on Warhol, and it's a 2 CD album, and it's just got David Cronenberg basically saying Andy was a guy who didn't love the spotlight. He'd love to sit back, and then there'd be a guest that would be like, "Hey, I'm David Alan Grier from In Living Color. Andy inspired me so much. When I saw that painting, I thought anything is possible." And then there was the song "Flaming Star" by Elvis Presley. It's just an unexplainable cultural artifact.
Wow. Andy Warhol would definitely work for like the Saudis or the Emiratis or something today.
Oh yeah. He'd get like the calligraphy with the lion and the sword, and he'd put that on a big digital display that would ripple. It would be fantastic.
I kind of like Andy Warhol from the perspective as like, so he started off actually as a really sincere artist, and his first drawings were like very earnest, like homoerotic ink drawings that MoMA turned down. And it was only after this that he started doing like the opposite, like the opposite of like traditional American masculine abstract expressionism, which was like a little frilly gay boy, doing like Campbell's soup crap and stuff from his advertising portfolio. So like looking at him as just like a wounded, prissy guy who decided to get back at the art world by fucking it up for several decades, I think makes him a more sympathetic character.
Yeah, that's more appealing to me. Yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted vengeance.
I feel like Andy Warhol would redesign the Saudi national costume as well as the army uniforms, and it would be like a really interesting mix of high technology and traditional Arab looks. And they'd have a lot of PR photos with them in it, and people would be like, that's the place where everybody looks so interesting. It can't be so bad, as they send another assassin team to chop somebody up.
They really do need like a Hugo Boss. I feel like they could get away with more if they just looked a bit more appealing. Yeah.
Yeah, that ultimate decadence look where they don't do any manual labor at all and just relax on silk, and the face just kind of floats out in every direction. And
Yeah,
a toad
it's like you're
away.
a ghost toad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call this. It's sort of, it's not the like the robe-y kind of thing, but it's a little bit more like a shalwar kameez type thing. It's like more fitted. That looks pretty good to me. I think that's a pretty, especially like in the heat.
yeah,
you know?
It's not a bad look.
Yeah.
Especially you put some leggings with that go into a fancy sandal.
Right.
And you need some great headgear. And you gotta get, the main thing that you have to do is find all the old clerics who send out the fatwas about ever trimming your beard. They gotta get rid of the neck beard. I mean, I think Salman gets that because he goes with just the stubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much more appealing.
So with those guys, they're probably the whole like not shaving it at all or not trimming it or whatever. I think that's based on like they're supposed to like don't touch it at all because that's like what the kuffar do or whatever. But the traditional fiqh will allow you, and I think it actually recommends that you actually shave the neck. So, you know, just return to tradition.
Yeah.
You know?
Return to tradition. I've been saying it and I'm not gonna stop.
They love their baseball caps, though. That's something I've noticed. I was watching this YouTube, this guy traveling around Saudi Arabia and stuff. Actually, it's a really good channel. It's called Visual Poet One, I think. He's an African guy, and he like goes around the Middle East, and he's especially interested in like different like African descendant communities in different places. But he was, you know, going to this place and that place in Saudi Arabia, and all the rich guys have like these stupid little baseball caps on it. It says like, you know, some sports car brand or something. They just love
Like,
it.
yeah, like Yankee fitted.
They love the red. They love the red Ferrari cap that you get when you buy the car.
Right. Yeah, that's probably what that is. It's like a status symbol that's sort of like modest in a way, you know.
Yeah, you see that on American rich guys a lot. You'll see them. It's like, oh, this is just a down-to-earth working class hat. Wait a minute. There's a luxury supercar logo on that thing.
Yeah. Or like the Patagonia sweater, and then you like look carefully, and it's like got the little logo that says like J.P. Morgan, like CEO or whatever. Yeah.
It's insidious. If you ever look at the, I'm sorry, I keep talking about the Sepoy mutiny in India, but the British East India Company, like your cavalry officers, say like the Punjab cavalry, they dress like Genghis Khan but with a British hat, and I feel like that endears people. Like they think it endears them to the locals. Like, oh, I'm mostly dressed like one of you normal guys, but really it just marks them as comically apart.
I've been telling Dave he got, you know, that's not how people dress over there, but he just loves it too much.
I think that most of Andy Warhol's art is probably over there now, right? Like it's probably in Dubai or something, right, and like on the wall of like a Subway sandwich shop or something.
Yeah.
Well, those are the prints. The originals are all in Swiss free ports.
Oh right, yeah, exactly.
Purposes.
Yeah.
Smart move.
There was a guy who actually invented the Freeport. That's pretty clever when you're just sitting around. How can I help rich people not pay taxes? I'll invent a totally new concept of an inland Freeport.
Yeah. I find that whole thing of just storing art just like for tax purposes and all that kind of stuff, I don't know, it seems like creepy at some level. Like, you know, just it's just all sitting there. Like it's all these portraits of people from like 1700 or something, you know, and just sitting there somewhere.
It's really uncanny to turn what's supposed to be the ultimate human expression into the same thing as like grain sitting in a silo on the commodities market.
Yeah.
That would be a good heist caper to like run off with a container of those.
Oh, yeah, that would be wonderful.
Maybe on a future episode, we'll figure that
On
out.
a future episode, we plan a heist.
We'll live
to
stream it.
Geneva Freeport.
Yeah, that's the come up, man. Our big heist, our big comeback.
Remember when they couldn't find that fake Da Vinci, the Christ the Redeemer thing that sold for the record amount, and it turned out it was on Bin Salman's boat. He just hung it up on his boat. It was supposed to go to the Louvre, Abu Dhabi, which is a ridiculous museum. But yeah, he just put it up on his boat.
Yeah, those guys have too much fun.
They really do. I mean, they're wearing sandals for the most part, so they're feeling the breeze.
Yeah, they're just in mild paradise all the time.
Saudi princes are a lot like Jimmy Buffett fans, except their personal wealth is in the 8 or 9 figures instead of 6.
Right. Yeah, sandals instead of Crocs.
Beach living, rum drinks. Do Ethiopian slave wife. There's a free port in Morocco called the Tangier Exportation Free Zone. I don't know if you guys have heard much about this, but the Euro industrialists, especially the car makers, they signed a free trade deal with Algeria and Morocco. The German government did. And so now a lot of German car parts are made for very low wages in Algeria and Morocco. So you can thank the kings for helping the stock price of BMW.
Standing on the shoulders of kings, baby.
He's such a good moderate leader.
He's moderate as hell.
Yeah.
You don't have to roll hash to make a living. You can sit here stamping out plastic doors for that little BMW space car.
Yeah, they do have a lot of hash and stuff over there, right? They have like mountains that are just covered.
Yeah, they basically every valley is irrigated, and they grow hash there. It's weird. In Europe, it's really hard to get bud, but it's really easy to get hash.
Yeah. When I was living in Europe, you could only get like trash weed with seeds in it that had been stored in the back of like a convenience store for a while. But hash was everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, India was like that too.
Apparently, Hezbollah in the Bekaa Valley said they're said to grow really good hash, like premium hash.
Ooh.
I mean, just another reason to support them.
Yeah,
Actually,
I was gonna say.
I had a block put on my bank account because I sent Elijah Manjane. If you guys follow any of the war news in the Middle East, he's connected with all the top Hezbollah people and top Iraqi people. And I sent him like $10 so we could keep reporting, and my bank account got flagged like I was funding terrorists.
Wild, yeah.
You should be able to send anybody lunch money, I think. Like $10 isn't going to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even build a roadside bomb for $10. I mean,
Yeah, buy a couple guys a shawarma. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
The only time weapons were that cheap was during the American invasion of Iraq. Saddam emptied out, hundreds of millions of tons of weapons and just kind of put them along the road so people could cache them away.
Everything must go.
like Tommy Franks and General Mattis were like, no, just ignore those. They won't matter because we're going to tactically win with ultimate force. So the insurgency just had all these free weapons to take. It was great.
That's kind of like when they set out the bricks during the protests and stuff.
Exactly. I don't think there's any decadence or decline in the American military leadership. Actually, but the Syrians fucked up in the same way, but it wasn't quite as much their fault because half the army was in mutiny and like a quarter got paid off, and they had these massive depots that just got turned over to Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. Do you guys want to see what the listeners have sent us for questions this week?
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's take a look. All right, so if Attila the Hun had not died prematurely, do you think he would have gone on to abandon paganism and possibly convert to Christianity or Islam?
I don't know. He was a little bit more hardcore than the rest of the guys, but it seems like if you need to rule a settled population and you're not just gonna leave the locals in charge like the Mongols did in China and Mesopotamia, you eventually have to at least pretend to convert to deal with all these settled farmers, because they're not going to understand your crazy pagan animist beliefs, and they're going to get upset.
Yeah. He also died like 200 years before Islam, so that was probably...
Yeah. I mean, Attila, Muhammad, what's the difference? The difference is that Muhammad did not alter his teeth to be pointy, and he did not have a skull shaped like a corn cob due to being strapped to boards as a baby, like Attila reportedly did.
Well, that's one of the reasons Islam was revealed, to fix things like that.
Yeah,
To fix the corn.
one of the best parts of the Holy Quran is that they said, no, I mean, you don't even know what maize is. It's across the ocean, so stop making your head shake like that.
It'd be good if there is some like alternate universe though, where like Attila won and like paganism, some strange syncretic whatever became like the dominant religion. And it's just like a utopia, because like all the all the like witches and stuff are in power, and they're like the people that right now have to work as like movie review journalists are now the presidents or like I don't know what they would be called, probably like Queen Witch or whatever. So
Yeah.
they'd be in power.
We'd have ritual sacrifices that work much better than like press conferences, and when your military conferences you'd sacrifice a few thousand people and figure out how the bones foretold, that I think that's reasonable. Now,
Yeah, I think I stand behind that too. Yeah.
they say they have all these AI models and spatial intelligence, but what it comes down to is like Fred Kaplan's nephew writing a paper at the American Friendship Peace think tank, and they just do whatever's in that, no matter how stupid it is.
Well, the thing about all that kind of like Mesopotamian paganism and stuff, it looks good on paper, but in practice it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit with human nature.
I believe Michael Jackson had a little song about that. His question was why? Why? Why tell him that it's human nature?
All right, next question here. When will you guys read Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan so that you are no longer ignorant stooges?
I guess soon. Jesus Christ. This is a lacerating question.
Yeah, that could be a fun episode, I think. What do you think, Don?
Yeah.
I don't know. Isn't he like somehow indirectly based on Murray Bookchin or whatever, that anarchist guy?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
That was his base, although I don't know if it was under pressure from the security forces, but he sort of renounced the democratic anarchism, and he said that, I don't know, like the voting was the way to go in the future. I don't exactly understand the story on that.
Don't they kind of like rebrand their whole ideology like every 5-10 years or so?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess you need to do that when you got the gray wolves on your tail and you're always just trying to pretend to be somebody else so you won't get your head blown out in the nighttime.
They're always like changing the flags and stuff whenever like some ambassador from a superpower visits. Like, oh, we love democracy. Like, okay, Americans gone, Russians coming. Oh, we love communism.
That's a nice whimsical way to live life. I think I stand behind that.
I think it was funny what the infamous Brace Belden said about Kurdistan, or the PKK area, not the Barzani Talibani clan kleptocracy Kurdistan, but he said it was basically just a Stalinist state. Everything was run by the top down state control.
Yeah,
that's all right. That works all right. No problem with that.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where people overseas are reading all these things being like, oh yeah, it's like anarchist collective and everyone agrees on everything and it's perfectly. And then he's like, no, that's not what they did. You can't you can't run a war by I don't know, like defunding the police in Kurdistan or whatever. So yeah.
All right, guys. Other than sex, what's something that you won't pay for?
Razor blades.
Oh yeah, where do you get razor blades?
At the store. I just
you don't pay
them any money for them.
You're the reason I have to buzz an alarm at Walgreens to get blade refills. You son of a bitch.
I was wondering about that.
What about you, John? What shall you never pay for again?
I'm struggling to think of something I wouldn't waste my money on. I've really thrown it at everything at this point, with great satisfaction.
How about horse milk? The Huns like to drink a lot of horse milk. Would you pay for that? Or would you get it free?
I mean, through force? Would I fight the Huns?
No, you can just get it from any old horse. You don't need to travel.
Yeah, you're saying go to the source. Yeah, well, yeah, that's horse milk for life. I'm definitely picking option B there. So yeah, horse milk. I guess that's my answer. Thank you, Leo.
I would say for myself, I won't buy gifts off women's Amazon wish lists. 'Cause I feel like there was like a certain point where I could have gone down that road pretty easily. I could have just ended up being one of those guys that's like buying fridges for people or something, and then instead
that's your sweet road not taken. Yeah.
I feel so bad for those guys because the response they get is, "Ooh, thank you, sweetie. That's so nice." And then like, instant message closed. My Amazon wish list: recoilless rifle, Kamala Harris's personal cell phone number so that I can triangulate it. Nothing incriminating. Some turkey sticks with high protein content.
Couple of guitar picks. Yeah.
Oh man, imagine playing a guitar without a pick. Your fingers are gonna be sore the next day. Well, let me tell you.
That's another aphorism from the master.
All right, next question here. Do you guys think Big Dave will be able to arrest Alan Dershowitz?
Yeah, I have every faith in Big Dave, for sure. I believe
he's got the bulk to take Dershowitz down. Dershowitz, he's a weak man. Big Dave, he's a heavy man, but you can tell he carries it well. Yeah. So if he's just gonna rush him and say pin him against the wall, there's no way Dershowitz slimes his way out of that one.
Yeah, that's an easy citizen's arrest right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's all about the infiltration. You know, how does he get to Alan Dershowitz? You know, I hear he's been training.
Yeah, I think the easiest way would just be like you would stage a campus talk where you're like saying Israel, the land of justice and peace and the prosperity of Palestinians, and once you get boycotted, you call Alan Dershowitz. You have a protester hit you in the face, you get a big black eye and like a bloody lip. You put that on social media. Eventually you get through to him. And then when you have a meeting in his office with his big, his overstuffed leather chair, you just cross the desk, you knock him out of the chair, you use the chair to hold him down, and then he's yours to do whatever you want to.
I would kind of worry that he'd be off like in some sort of like industrial site, like just like in some like in some nerve center of it, and it's just like there's like all the steel being made and all that kind of stuff, and then there's like guys with rifles everywhere, just like hundreds of them.
Yeah, men on catwalks with automatic shotguns.
Yeah, and then so Big Dave would have to kind of swoop in with the rest of us, and we'd have to clear house.
We'd have to battle through waves of guards, and then like his second in command is this massive IDF guy, and he's got cybernetic eyes.
Yeah. I feel like Big Dave would just like this array of guards would form a formation in front of him, like ready to take him out, and he would just point to them and say, "Who care?" And then be like looking at each other and like, yeah, he's got a point. And they all just abandon their post and he walks right into the office.
Good times.
It's so important to keep your post.
Okay, here it says, is frequent YCW guest Ed Buck doing a bit? I will say that no, he's not doing a bit. He is that insane and misanthropic. That's who he is. He's constantly arguing with people.
I think it's authentic. I think it's deeply authentic.
Oh yeah.
Like outside of people who make the fast food parking lot YouTube videos, he's probably one of the most hateful men in America who isn't like a military general.
And that's why we love him, you know. Basically, we have to do this show and have him like have this outlet, or else someone's gonna die. You know, it's kind of
he's kind of holding you guys hostage too. Yeah,
yeah. So we appreciate that people are listening and kind of keeping that at bay.
It's a lot like how Pablo Escobar had his own personal TV reporter, and if anybody else came around, he'd shoot them, but he would tell her his innermost thoughts in exchange for sex and favorable coverage.
Is drinking directly out of a blender cool, or is it just a little too gross?
I think it's cool.
It's all right. A lot of blenders, they don't really have much of a lip, so you're gonna dribble your smoothie right down your shirt. I guess if you're shirtless, you're doing some nude bodybuilding, and then you just want to chug the protein, that's fine. Otherwise, I say get yourself a nice glass.
Nice glass or cup, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, use a cup. Some people use glasses. Actually, to make fun of my girlfriend briefly, the other day she asked me for a glass cup, and I thought that was
that is the glass's full name. Actually, it's like Frankenstein's monster, you know?
Yeah, the glass cup. It also sounds like the award between two like low-level English football teams. Every year they play for the
it's the glass cup
and Heathstead. The glass cup. Of course, created by local glass magnate George H. Harloway, whose glass factory was exported to India in 1981.
This question says, have either of you ever been to Texas? If so, was it nice? Speaking of Texas, we are thinking about moving the podcast down to Texas to avoid all the taxes and stuff that we have to pay up here in Illinois and in Canada. So kind of doing the Joe Rogan move.
Oh, yeah.
Smart.
We're going to move to Austin and make ourselves like a roller derby podcast. And like I'll be dressing like, with the flannel, rockabilly look kind of thing. And,
nice.
Brother, we have to do two things. We have to
flannel shirt.
We have to keep Austin weird, and we have to find Coney. You know, I've been staunch about this for the past decade.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep repeating these two things.
The main problem I have with Coney isn't that he kills so many unarmed women and children, or that he has child soldiers. It's his blasphemy. He's simply not. He's simply teaching a heretical version of Christianity, and that's not acceptable. And if the Vatican wasn't busy funding fascist death squads, maybe they could take him out.
Yeah, he's not. He's not showing humility. That's the big thing. Yeah,
that's the big thing. The other nice thing about Texas is that you can drive through Armorillo, that area, through the Indian reservation at like 95 miles per hour, and there are no police, and the toll's only 10 cents. But then once you get near the cattle, the feedlots, it's the worst smell you could imagine, other than maybe like a rotting corpse right next to you. You drive for 2 hours and all you smell is rancid cow shit in the sun. It's incredible. Like, we put it in the emptiest part of the country that's not contaminated by nuclear fallout, but it's there, and it is foul.
Yeah.
But Houston's a great city. They got donks in Houston, and like if you're a black woman and you got some thickness, you could make 400K a year dancing in Houston. And I think that's good. You want to provide for the women. You don't want to make them work at Subway.
Yeah, I hear like weather in Houston is just horrendous though.
Oh yeah, it's miserably hot and humid.
Yeah.
Absolutely all the time.
I spent a little bit of time in Texas, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I didn't go to Houston. I was in those areas where it's like dry, and so the heat was bearable. But if it was humid, that would just be insane.
Yeah.
I've always romanticized like fleeing to desolate West Texas and like living in a field with horses in complete mystery, but the rancid corpse smell, I think, is now turning me off. Thank you, Leo.
Well, we'll see about next month. We'll see what happens.
Just to head south.
Okay. There we go. Great.
You can complete your hermitage. You can bond with horses.
I'm gonna
with
bond
horses,
with all the
like,
horses, man.
just like you're in. What's that Malibu rehab called?
There's a Malibu equine therapy rehab.
Yeah, the Malibu horses. Is it Crossroads?
Crossroads.
Where Motley Crue
where the real cowboys go. Hell yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Who do you think is going to be the closest figure to Attila the Hun in our lifetime? Because it can't be Omar al-Baghdadi. He didn't do anything as funny as getting a letter from a princess and destroying an empire over like this pretend proposal for marriage.
AOC.
We need somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, AOC is going to become like the drone queen of the world.
Slay.
Exactly.
Slay, hun.
So you guys, let's see. Well, 3 of us have girlfriends or ex-wives. What do you guys think is up with women loving these drag shows and now like these voguing competitions? Why are they so steeped in nostalgia for like black street kid culture of 1985?
I don't understand it. I don't want to think about it. I just kind of chalk it up as something that just a mystery, you know.
Women are mysterious. That's true. What do you think about it, John?
I think it seems campy and it has a vaguely celebratory atmosphere to it, so I think they're just drawn to it. But yeah, I don't quite understand it either. I think it's a sort of imagined nostalgia, maybe, for like a sort of unknown John Waters era.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And women, they want that cred now. They want to know the words they use so they can feel like really cool while still being, intersectional allies.
Yeah.
But I think it's something like women really want to listen to black stand-up comedians who are really funny and say bad words, but then they also give great self-help advice. But for some women, it's too raunchy now that we've become so puritanical, so they need a safer version of that. Like if a gay man is saying it, it's less dangerous to listen to.
Yeah.
Women also like to play dress up. I mean, that's an obvious part of it.
Yeah, that's a huge portion.
And I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe people who were born before the AIDS era, they want to know what culture was like before gay men were afraid to have like sex with 50 men in a bathhouse every single night. I don't know. What about you, Don? What's your opinion on this?
No, I think you got most of it. I don't know. I don't know,
Covered a lot of ground.
Oh, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I don't know.
At the end of the day,
I mean, there's a clear upside in that you get poor people and you give them some exposure and they can make a living. And that's all we can really ask for in these hard times.
Yeah, I know. I think it's what you're saying is that it's like the being able to take the words of gay men and black women and things like that and be able to say them at the office. That's the that's like
that's
all
all
that
that's
sweet
all anybody
appropriation.
really
Hell
wants to
yeah.
do, you know.
They want to be a part of it. That's why I think we need to introduce an organization that anybody can join, but especially women and like urban men who just they don't have anything. They're listless cosmopolitans, as you could say. When we give them uniforms, we say we need you to enforce the public morality, and just see what happens.
It always comes back to giving people uniforms with you, Leo.
Well, I mean,
That's the heart of it. Yeah, looking good. Yeah.
looking good, feeling good. Looking cute, feeling cute. It's true. It works. It's a fact.
It's a
Yeah,
perfect formula. Yeah.
I'm just observing the
I'll go to
principle of
uniforms. You know how everybody sort of incorrectly talks about Nazi uniforms being designed by Hugo Boss, and that's why they're so cool.
Oh, is that not true?
Yeah, I thought that was true.
It's-
You should have called me on that earlier.
When you went
It's
outside.
like a
it's-
fool.
They manufactured some stuff, but it was designed by somebody else. But the reason why they always look so sharp in photos is that every company had their own tailor and cobbler, so that like even small units could always get their shit fixed, so they were looking perfect. And like they took them deep into Russia, and so they still have cobblers making their boots shine and look beautiful,
Wow.
and given the taper and fixing the
Personal
sleeves on the
cobblers, brother.
uniform.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's the upper
that was just
echelon. That is VIP right
the
there.
Nazis were they were an interesting people. I'm glad that none exist anymore, and there was no secret Nazi West German government that still exists.
Yeah, I'm glad they haven't reclaimed a bunch of Poland very quietly.
Well, 2020 isn't over yet, but yeah, that sounds a little bit like unnecessary to have personal cobblers and stuff with all the units, but you gotta figure that's
that
big,
feels like wildly inefficient for such famously
especially for
efficient
Germans,
people.
right?
Yeah.
But you gotta figure that's a big factor in the longevity of people appreciating like neo-Nazis and all that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah, if you don't have unit level tailors and cobblers, do you even have like Venezuelan and American neo-Nazis if they don't look cool?
Right.
Yeah.
Like people.
You're just like
People
losers
like
in
Rhodesia-
Mongolia just cutting off foreigners' heads indiscriminately at that point,
Yeah.
if
I
you
mean,
know you're
like-
gonna lose the war, you just gotta look good losing it, and then in 50 years someone else will pick up the flag and carry on the fight.
Exactly. I mean, the Rhodesians tried a more like relaxed strategy where they wore like little booty shorts and camel tees instead of a proper uniform, and they're beloved on the internet. So I think it's a strategy you want to follow if you're leading a doomed but powerful army.
Yeah, maybe we need to get you designing us some podcasting uniforms or something.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I mean, nobody likes South Africa. Like, nobody celebrates the military successes of the South African army because they didn't look good. They look like shit, to be honest.
They're fucking losers, man.
That's probably
Nobody's
why
like-
people don't like apartheid South Africa. I think you're right. Yeah.
No, that's what I mean. Like, that's why we don't have neo-war apartheid people. Like, the only people who want to
Yeah,
go back
I don't wanna look
are
like those
like
losers.
actual Boers.
Right.
And Dylan Roof, who was
yeah.
into. But he had some weird connections with like CIA mercenaries and stuff. That stuff gets weirder the more you look into it.
Nah, who doesn't these days? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I did not say anything.
I would love to see a CIA buddy movie with Stephen Paddock and Dylan Roof, like real bond. I think that'd be great.
Stephen Paddock gets burned, and instead of taking his revenge on a crowd of country music fans, he teams up with Dylan Roof, and he tries to bring back apartheid in South Africa before being beaten
Get the
by a
band
club
back
of
together,
men.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that they go to MDMA therapy together and they totally become nice guys, you know.
Yeah,
and
they wear white robes
ways.
and cry together.
Right. They start a self-help movement.
Yeah, they get that kind of excellent self-help when they're talking about the virtuality of spirit, and they're just very peaceful people. I like that. That's a good idea. You're thinking in a much more harmonious wavelength than I am. Probably thanks to your multiple prayers.
Yeah, probably
to Allah today.
Yep.
I knew a guy from LA who was the most LA guy I'd ever known, and I ran into him in like Union Square, and I found out he was like living above like an acupuncture clinic, that he had to leave at 8 a.m. every day and just wander the streets until he could come back to the acupuncture clinic. But he told me about how he went to like a mother-son like sassafras ceremony where a bunch of like, I guess, aging LA urbanite moms and their well-fed sons like did MDMA together and like bonded and cried, and he said this had really enlightened him, but unfortunately he soon later got involved with a LA NYC bi-coastal cult centered around clitoral stimulation called One Touch or something, like a multi-level marketing scheme.
Oh wow. It's wild to me how cults and like pyramid schemes like that are pretty much like the same thing. Like if you're doing one, you're doing the other now. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. Yeah.
Do you guys know? Speaking of like weird self-help and like Southern California rich people, do you guys know about GT Dave, the guy who owns the GT Kombucha brand?
No. What's the dirt on GT Dave?
That's good booch, though.
There's a video of there's a long interview video of him on YouTube that you should check out, and he's just the weirdest, like permanently smiling, permanently happy, almost like the Heaven's Gate guy. And his elderly plastic surgery mom is with him, and they speak in these new age cliches and in their weird white mansion. It's rich people just get up to some stuff in California. I don't know exactly what they do in New York besides, snuffing out child prostitutes, but in New York, in Los Angeles, they really get up to some stuff.
No, yeah, because there's pressure to be happy in Los Angeles. Like in New York City, you can just be publicly miserable, as I've recounted in my many foibles in this podcast. But in LA, you have to maintain perceptions of happiness. So to do this, you have to go to desperate lengths and go with your mother to MDMA therapy. You have to desperately seek the answer.
Is there any magic in the world? Are there any LA girls who dream like I do, who don't want to sleep the day through? The thing is, when you're hanging around in Los Angeles, you'll meet these rich people, not super rich people, just say a blonde man and his attractive wife, and he's 40 and she's 32 or whatever. And they're so nice. Everybody in Los Angeles is just so kind to you all the time.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things about, they don't care.
It's a real lean on me city, Yeah, it's not that they care, it's that they have to maintain the veneer of caring, because it's part of this, we're all helping each other out and we're happy sort of facade.
They couldn't care if you live or died.
If they saw you on Skid Row, they would pretend not to recognize you. Yeah.
Literally, the only mean people in Los Angeles are the heirs of the Persians who fled the revolution. they're very large physically. You don't expect Persians to be 6'6" and puffy, but even the women are 6'6" and puffy, and then they wear these giant Persians that are just out of my way. And I don't know. They need to get in on the LA vibe. They're too enslaved in their nightclubs with the blue carpets and golden lions.
They need to go to the sassafras ceremony, man. Yeah. And
join
the clit cult. Yeah.
But I don't want to sound like I'm singling out the group, because there are some very cool Persians in LA who will jam out with you anytime you want.
So let's wrap this up here with one last question. This one's a little bit confusing. I thought maybe you guys could help me understand what's going on here. So
you guys get such tough questions, like homework, man. It's really tough.
Well, this one says, will you ever bring on an observer to observe the podcast? Can't remember what it's called. Sorry.
Yeah, that one's really tough.
An observer? Does he mean like one of those people who sits in a workplace and like writes down what everybody's doing so they can consult on workflow, or is this more of like a spiritual thing?
Oh, I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea what this is talking about.
It's really cryptic. It's like a letter from a serial killer.
Like, podcasts are an audio thing, so it must be talking about the actual recording.
Yeah, maybe this is an English as a second language person who's asking you for a videographer.
Oh, like if we would do video stuff.
I don't know, or maybe they're just asking for a government observer to censor you.
To just hold you boys down, yeah.
That's some Chinese communist cadres coming in.
I was thinking of like a psychologist or something, like trying to monitor our health. Or...
Oh, please no.
Assess you in real
I was thinking
time.
more like a Joycean, like a ranger type character who you guys would just like speak to like separately, and then that person would like coagulate your thoughts into the podcast, which I think is a pretty good streamlining idea just for the avant-garde aspect of it, you know?
That could be good.
Yeah.
Then we can record separately too, so we wouldn't have to actually talk to each other. We just
Yeah. That cuts a lot of the fat. Yeah.
See, I knew this would be a productive question to ask you guys.
Yeah, there we go.
We are generators, all right? That's why we live in Neomi.
Yeah, Neom,
right?
We're some of the creatives of Neom.
We are the working minds that make up the neo-urban lifestyle and flavor.
The vice architect for Neom, Henry Drury Harness. Well, actually, he's the vice engineer, not the vice architect. He's asked us to take the lotus position among various compass points that line up with the Earth's natural ley lines, which they will not tell you about in school, and just feel the vibe. And if we're picking up good vibes, the observer feels the vibe, and the next observer is going to catch that feeling. But if it clashes with their own feeling, they'll know they're not vibing, and there's got to be some changes in Neom.
Yeah,
this is
you got to change up the vibe.
If anybody is like 17 in high school, you're listening to this podcast, you want to know what you're going to do for a job, observer Neom. It's really what you want to aim for.
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your tales of woe with our audience, and
no worries, man. It's great to voice it. I still got friends in high places. I'm still taking prayers across the spectrum. You know, sure. Catholic, Muslim, really extremist sects. I'm looking for like Lutherans, Renaissance ranters, stuff like that. No, but I think I'll bounce back. I always do. Leo, you once shared a beautiful wisdom with me when I was really down and out about a year ago. Something about how we're masochistic phoenixes who rise again just to die and rise again. Do you recall this? It really stuck with me.
Yeah, I can explain that. That's a family philosophy.
Yeah.
My very own dad, who was a sailor in the Navy, he's got Navy-style tattoos, but his coolest one is of a phoenix hung in a noose with X's for eyes.
Yes. This really stuck with me.
And I described it to my friend Bernard saw it, and he's a very poetic
Shout out to
soul.
Bernard, a real
and he
veteran.
said, that's the masochistic phoenix dying just to rise again.
That's so beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. Love that.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on.
It was a pleasure.
It was such a pleasure. We love you so dearly.
And to all the fans, We love you so much.
We want to make sweet R&B love to you in a jacuzzi. We're just so thankful.
Check out the Pimp Chronicles when it premieres in 2027.
No, it's premiering soon. We're gonna get it together.
Sure.
Well, whenever those come out, we will definitely do a proper shout out and everything.
Yeah, hopefully before our 4th guest appearance.
All right, guys. So if you enjoyed this episode of You Can't Win, you can subscribe to our Patreon and get a second episode every week, as well as access to our Discord where you can chat with us in our community. And don't forget that we also have a Curious Cat where you can send questions anonymously. The Curious Cat is pinned to the Twitter account for the podcast. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again next week.